Let's refresh your memory. Here's the end scene from part 2. Let's begin part 3 of their secret marriage.
In slowly blinked awake, feeling warmth on her cheek. As her vision adjusted, she realized she wasn't in her bed, she was at the office. Her head snapped up, and her eyes widened when she saw Jungkook staring at her, his elbow propped up on the table, chin resting on his hand. His gaze was soft but teasing, amusement dancing in his dark eyes. "Good afternoon, sleeping beauty," tilting his head, and quickly sat up straight, her face turning red when she saw the contract under her. "Oh no, she started, but Jungkook cut her off. "You slept for almost an hour," he said, leaning closer. "Did you rest well, baby?" And bit her lip, embarrassed. "Why didn't you wake me up?" Jungkook smirked. "Because you looked adorable, and also because..." He tapped the contract in front of him. "9 million can wait, but my wife's rest is more important." In's heart skipped a beat. This man. She covered her flustered face with her hands, but Jungkook reached over, gently pulling them away. "You need to take care of yourself, In," he murmured. "You don't always have to push yourself so hard." In pouted. "Says the man who kept me up all night." Jungkook chuckled. "Touché. But in my defense, you didn't complain much last night." In's face burned. She quickly grabbed the contract to distract herself. Did you sign it?" Jungkook smirked, seeing her attempt to change the subject. "I was waiting for my wife to wake up first." In smiled softly, warmth spreading in her chest. He could be strict and playful, but deep down, Jungkook always put her first. "Well, go ahead then, Mr. Chun," she said, nodding toward the contract. Jungkook signed the papers with ease, but his gaze never left hers. As soon as he finished, he stood up and extended his hand. "Come on, let's go home. You need more rest." In gasped, lightly hitting his chest as he laughed, leading her out of the office. His fingers intertwined with hers. Jungkook and YN reached the car, and as soon as they sat inside, Jungkook's hand immediately slid under YN's skirt, his fingers rubbing her thigh. YN gasped and quickly slapped his hand away. "Jungkook," she scolded, glaring at him. Jungkook's jaw clenched and his eyes darkened as he turned to her. Without another word, he abruptly pulled the car to the side of the road and turned off the engine. Before In could react, Jungkook grabbed her waist and effortlessly pulled her onto his lap. She gasped, her hands instinctively landing on his shoulders as their eyes met. "This is your punishment for slapping my hand away," he murmured, his voice deep and commanding. Then his lips curled into a smirk. "Or should I say, your reward?" YN's breath hitched, but she remained silent, feeling her cheeks heat up. She knew better than to challenge him when he was in this mood. Jungkook held her close for a moment, his grip firm yet gentle, before finally letting out a sigh and allowing her to settle back into her seat. He started the car again and drove them home.
Once they arrived at their mansion, they had lunch together, enjoying a quiet meal. Jungkook, still teasing her, occasionally fed her bites of food, smirking at how flustered she got. After lunch, they decided to finish some remaining work in the living room. In sat on the couch with her laptop, typing away, while Jungkook worked on his documents beside her. Jungkook leaned back on the couch, watching YN with a soft gaze. "You want to go shopping?" he asked, his voice gentle. YN nodded eagerly. "Yes, I need a dress and accessories for Hemin's wedding." Jungkook didn't hesitate. "All right, let's go. Buy whatever you want." YN blinked, surprised. Really, no complaints. Jungkook smirked, reaching out to tuck a strand of hair behind her ear. "Why would I complain? My baby wants something, so she have it." In's heart melted at his words. "You're spoiling me," she murmured. Jungkook pulled her into his lap, wrapping his arms around her. "That's my job, isn't it?" He kissed her forehead softly. "Now go get ready. We're going shopping." In smiled brightly, hugging him before rushing off to change, feeling completely pampered by her husband. Time skip. Himmen's wedding day. Jungkook smirked from where he was lying on the bed, his head resting on his hand as he watched in Get Ready. His dark eyes followed her every movement, taking in the way she carefully fixed her makeup and adjusted her dress. YN catching his intense gaze through the mirror, huffed and turned around. "Stop staring at me like a creep, Jungkook," he chuckled, completely unfazed. "How can I not stare when my wife looks this beautiful?" YN rolled her eyes, trying to focus on finishing her look, but Jungkook got up and walked over to her, standing behind her. He leaned down, his lips brushing against her ear. "You're breathtaking," he murmured. A shiver ran down YN's spine as she met his gaze in the mirror. "Flirting won't make me forget that you were acting jealous when I was picking a dress," she teased. Jungkook smirked, wrapping his arms around her waist. "I wasn't jealous. I just have good taste, and I didn't want you wasting time choosing when I already knew what would make you look the most stunning." YN shook her head with a smile. "Whatever helps you sleep at night." He smirked, completely unbothered. "I like your dress." YN flushed slightly. "Think. Take it off." Her eyes widened as she turned around to face him. "What? You can't be serious right now." Jungkook stood up, taking slow, deliberate steps toward her. "I am." She instinctively took a step back, shaking her head. "Why are you always like this?" Jungkook chuckled, cornering her against the dresser. His hands rested on either side of her, caging her in. He leaned down, his lips hovering just over hers. "Because you exist." YN swallowed hard, placing her hands on his chest to keep some distance between them. "Jungkook, please. We're already late for Himmen's wedding." Jungkook let out a deep sigh, but his smirk never faded. "I'll be quick." It narrowed her eyes. "No, not now, please." Before she could protest, he captured her lips in a heated kiss, his hands trailing down her back. In tried to resist, but the moment his lips moved to her neck, she shivered. "Jungkook, my makeup. I'll fix it later." He mumbled against her skin, leaving soft kisses that turned into nibbles. He pressed her against the dresser, his fingers tracing the zipper of her dress. "Jungkook, not now," she whispered breathlessly. He groaned dramatically, stepping back slightly but keeping his gaze locked on her. "You really want me to go to the wedding like this?" YN frowned. "Like what?" Jungkook arched a brow, gesturing downward. Her eyes followed his movement before widening when she noticed the obvious bulge in his pants. Face turning red, she quickly looked away. Jungkook took the chance to close the distance again, pinning her against the wall. His lips brushed against her ear as he whispered, "What do you say, baby? Should I go like this, or are you gonna help me out?" He ignored her and slid the zipper down, his lips working on her sensitive spots. Time skip. In the middle of their heated moment, YN's phone started ringing. She ignored it at first, too lost in the sensation, but when it kept ringing persistently, Jungkook groaned and grabbed it. "It's Himmen," Jungkook smirked, showing her the screen. "Give it to me," YN panted, trying to take the phone, but Jungkook answered before she could. "YN, where are you?" Himmen's voice came through the speaker, frustrated. "You're so late. Don't tell me our cold boss is keeping you." At that moment, Jungkook did something that made YN let out a loud gasp. Her hand flew to cover her mouth. Himmen paused. "Wait, what was that? YN, are you okay?" Jungkook, with a devilish smirk, replied, "You'll understand on your wedding night, Himmen." There was silence on the other end before Himmen muttered, "I don't need to hear this," and quickly ended the call. Jungkook laughed, tossing the phone aside. Serves him right for interrupting. And glared at him, "You're impossible." Time skipped afterward. YN stood in front of the mirror, trying to cover the love bites on her neck with makeup. She scowled at Jungkook, who was lying on the bed, watching her with a satisfied smirk. Look what you did, she huffed. How am I supposed to go to the wedding like this? Jungkook stretched lazily. Not my fault you look so good. Besides, it's cute. YN picked up a pillow and threw it at him. You're the worst. Jungkook dodged it effortlessly, chuckling. Come here. I'll help you cover them. YN narrowed her eyes. You'll just make more. Jungkook only smirked, maybe, and groaned, turning back to the mirror. I hate you. Jungkook walked up behind her, wrapping his arms around her waist and kissing her cheek. No, you don't. YN and Jungkook arrived at Hyunmin's wedding, entering the venue hand in hand. The decorations were beautiful, and the air was filled with laughter and excitement. In smiled, feeling both nervous and excited to be there, but she couldn't help but notice the tight grip Jungkook had on her hand, as if he didn't want to let her go. As soon as they entered, YN spotted Hyunmin and Lisa talking to some guests. Lisa waved at them, and YN quickly made her way over, exchanging hugs and greetings. But as soon as Lisa pulled away from the hug, her eyes caught something on the back of YN's neck, and she grinned mischievously. Oh my gosh, YN, what is that? In froze, she knew exactly what Lisa was referring to. It was a fresh love bite that Jungkook had left earlier, and she tried her best to hide it under her hair. Lisa leaned closer, teasing her. Didn't know you and Jungkook were getting this adventurous. In flushed, shooting a glance toward Jungkook, who was talking to Hyunmin. Her heart raced, and she scolded herself in her mind. Why did he have to do that? Lisa, please, not now, she muttered, trying to laugh it off. But Lisa wasn't done. You can't just leave me hanging here, what happened? Did he give you that in the car? She winked, playfully elbowing YN. In winced, squeezing her eyes shut. Jungkook ... Meanwhile, across the room, YN couldn't help but notice a woman approaching Jungkook. She was dressed in a sleek, tight dress, her body language clearly flirting. The woman smiled brightly, talking to Jungkook with a certain familiarity, making YN's blood boil with jealousy. Lisa noticed it immediately. You okay? She asked, her voice filled with amusement. I'm fine, YN gritted, but her eyes were fixed on Jungkook and the woman. How dare she? It didn't take long for YN's jealousy to get the best of her. With a deep breath, she excused herself from Lisa and made her way toward the couple, glaring at the woman who was now laughing at something Jungkook had said. Just as she was about to approach, Jungkook seemed to sense her presence. He casually turned to the woman, his voice icy but calm. Please keep your distance, ladies. My little wifey doesn't like random girls talking to me, he said, his eyes not leaving the woman, who looked slightly taken aback. The woman blinked, surprised by his bluntness. Wait, you're married? She asked, a little shocked. Jungkook nodded, a smirk curling on his lips. Yes, he said firmly, his gaze now meeting YN's. YN couldn't stop the small, proud smile that appeared on her face. She'd won again. The woman, now embarrassed, backed away, and YN walked up to Jungkook with a smirk. Jealous, babe, he whispered, his voice low and teasing. In just rolled her eyes but couldn't help the warmth that spread across her chest. Not even a little, she lied, though the jealousy still lingered in her veins. Jungkook chuckled. You're cute when you're jealous, he teased. YN shook her head, still flushed. Let's just enjoy the wedding, please, she mumbled, trying to focus on the festivities. But as they walked off together, YN couldn't shake the feeling of possessiveness that had stirred within her. Jungkook was hers, and no one else was going to take him away. The wedding was in full swing, and while everyone around YN was smiling, laughing, and celebrating, she couldn't focus on anything but the way every woman in the venue seemed to gravitate toward Jungkook. One woman in a glittering dress laughed at something he said. Another leaned in a little too close as she complimented him on his suit. YN clenched her jaw, irritation simmering inside her. Each glance toward Jungkook seemed to pull him further away from her, and her jealousy flared up like wildfire. It didn't help when a particularly bold woman tried to touch Jungkook's arm, her eyes sparkling with a flirty glint. YN's blood boiled. She had to get out of there. The moment the ceremony ended, she practically dragged Jungkook out of the venue, her grip on his hand tight. Jungkook glanced down at her, confused. YN, what's wrong? Let's go, she muttered, her voice low and commanding. We're leaving, now. Jungkook didn't argue, but he couldn't help but notice the fire in her eyes. Something was definitely bothering her. Once they were in the car, YN remained silent, her anger simmering. She crossed her arms, staring straight ahead. Jungkook watched her, the confusion still evident on his face. YN, he started gently, what's going on? You're acting like something's wrong. She glared at him, and her voice was firm when she spoke. Go home, she said, not giving him a chance to argue. Jungkook didn't push her further, instead driving them home in quiet tension. The second they stepped inside their mansion, YN was on him. She pinned him to the door with surprising strength, her hands gripping his shirt as her lips met his skin rough and biting. Jungkook let out a small groan, his body tense under her touch. He didn't know exactly what had triggered her, but it was clear that her jealousy had finally boiled over. As her teeth sank into his neck in anger, Jungkook hissed, "What's going on, baby?" He asked, his voice strained, but low, trying to make sense of it. "Why didn't you tell them I'm your wife?" In growled, her breath shaky as her grip tightened. Jungkook's eyes softened as he reached for her, his hands gently cupping her face. "You're the one who said to keep this marriage a secret," he reminded her softly, his voice full of sincerity. He wasn't trying to defend himself, but merely reminding her of her own words. In's eyes narrowed, and she snapped, "I didn't tell you to let them flirt with you." Her anger surged again, but it was fueled by something deeper than just irritation, hurt, jealousy, and a feeling of possessiveness. She yanks off her heels and throws them at him, followed by her purse. "Keep the stupid shoes and purse. I don't want your gifts." She snaps, her voice trembling with anger. He catches the purse effortlessly, a smirk tugging at the corner of his lips. His eyes darken as he takes a step closer. "That dress was a gift as well," he murmurs, his gaze dropping to the fabric clinging to her. She freezes, her breath hitching, his words hang in the air, daring her to react. "Get out," she ordered, her voice fierce. Jungkook blinked in surprise. "What?" "Just go." YN's voice was sharp, her arms crossed as she stood near the door, glaring at Jungkook. Jungkook scoffed, crossing his arms in return. "Are you serious right now?" "Dead serious," she shot back, stepping forward and shoving him toward the door. Jungkook chuckled, clearly amused. "You're really throwing me out of my own house because some women talk to me." YN didn't respond, she just grabbed his wrist, pulled him toward the door, and opened it wide. Jungkook barely had time to react before he found himself standing outside, and before he could protest, slammed the door shut right in his face. For a moment, there was silence, then a deep sigh came from the other side of the door. "Baby," Jungkook called out, knocking lightly. "Come on, open up. You know I didn't do anything wrong." Silence. Jungkook smirked, leaning against the door. "You're mad because you're jealous. Ha!" Still no response. A playful glint flashed in his eyes. "Fine. If you're not going to let me in, I guess I'll just sleep outside. Maybe I'll take my shirt off and lie down on the porch, looking all hot and irresistible." Inside, YN rolled her eyes, but she didn't answer. Jungkook grinned. "Oh no, what if the neighbors see me? What if some random girl comes by and flirts with me? What if—" The door flew open, and before Jungkook could react, YN smacked him on the arm. "Shut up!" He burst into laughter, grabbing her wrist before she could hit him again. "So you're jealous?" "I'm not jealous," she huffed, trying to pull away. But Jungkook tightened his grip and pulled her closer. "You totally are," he teased, leaning down until their noses almost touched. "My little wifey couldn't handle seeing other women talking to me. Huh?" In's face flushed with frustration and embarrassment. "Stop calling me that." Jungkook smirked. but you are my wife," In groaned, shoving him back. "You're so annoying." After a few minutes, inside, arms crossed, "Fine, you can stay in the room." Jungkook smirked, stepping inside. "I knew you couldn't resist me for long." She rolled her eyes and grabbed her nightwear before heading to the bathroom, still annoyed. Jungkook, left alone, decided to have some fun. He unbuttoned his shirt lazily and tossed it aside, lying on the bed half naked. His toned ABS and chest were on full display, glistening slightly under the soft room light. He grabbed a strawberry from the fruit bowl on the bedside table, biting into it slowly, his lips slightly stained with the juice. He knew YN would be out soon, and he wanted to see just how long she could resist him. To add to his plan, he took a bottle of water and drank from it, tilting his head back slightly, letting some of the water spill onto his chest, trailing down his ABS. The bathroom door clicked open. In stepped out, rubbing her damp hair with a towel, still fuming until her eyes landed on him. She froze mid-step. Jungkook lay there, one arm behind his head, his toned body on display, his lips slightly red from the strawberries, and water droplets sliding down his chest. He smirked when he caught her staring. "Like what you see, baby?" In snapped out of it and turned away. "Put on your shirt." Jungkook chuckled. "Why am I distracting you?" YN huffed and sat on the couch, pretending to check her phone. Jungkook took another strawberry, biting it slowly, making sure she noticed. "These are so sweet," he murmured. "You want a taste?" YN didn't respond. Jungkook smirked. "I guess you're still mad." He sat up, taking another sip of water before intentionally spilling a little on his chest. "Oops," he muttered, lazily running his fingers over the droplets, spreading them over his skin. YN swallowed hard, gripping her phone tighter. Jungkook grinned. "Baby, if you want to touch, you just have to ask." YN stood up abruptly, glaring at him. "You're doing this on purpose." Jungkook grinned, patting the space beside him. "Come here and find out." YN huffed, turning away, but her flushed cheeks gave her away. Jungkook chuckled, knowing her anger was melting away. Still mad, he teased. YN grabbed a pillow and threw it at him. Jungkook caught it easily, laughing. "That's a yes, ha!" But he knew it was only a matter of time before she caved. After teasing YN to the brink of frustration, Jungkook finally decided to freshen up. He smirked at her one last time before heading to the bathroom, leaving her flustered and trying to focus on anything but him. A few minutes later, he returned, wearing only sweatpants, his toned upper body completely bare. His damp hair fell messily over his forehead, water droplets still glistening on his skin. He stretched lazily before slipping into bed beside her. Then, out of nowhere, he let out a deep, throaty moan. In's eyes widened as she snapped her head toward him. "W, what are you doing?" Jungkook grinned, shifting slightly, his voice husky. "Just feeling so relaxed right now," he drawled, running a hand through his wet hair. In's face turned red. "Can you not make those weird noises?" Jungkook turned on his side, propping himself up on one elbow, his eyes dark with mischief. "Weird noises," he repeated, smirking. "Baby, if you want to hear the real ones, you just have to ask." YN swallowed, gripping the blanket. "Shut up, Jungkook." But he wasn't done yet. He leaned closer, his breath fanning against her ear. "You know, I was thinking about you the entire time I was in the shower," he whispered, his voice thick with seduction. "About how good you'd feel in my arms, how soft your skin is, how sweet your little sounds are when I touch you." YN squeezed her eyes shut, her whole body heating up. "I don't want to hear this." Jungkook chuckled, his fingers lazily tracing patterns on her exposed shoulder. "Oh, but your body does," he murmured, noticing the way her breathing had become uneven. YN tried to move away, but Jungkook was faster, wrapping an arm around her waist and pulling her flesh against him. "You can keep acting mad," he murmured, his lips brushing against her neck. "But I know exactly what you need, baby." YN's heart pounded, her resolve crumbling fast. Jungkook smirked, knowing she wouldn't last much longer. In Had Enough, the teasing, the smirks, the way he knew exactly how to push her buttons, it all drove her insane. Before Jungkook could utter another word, she suddenly flipped him onto his back, pinning him beneath her. Jungkook's eyes widened in shock. "War?" he started, but his voice was cut off when YN's fingers gripped his throat lightly, tilting his head up. Before he could react, her lips crashed against his in a fierce, demanding kiss. It was rough, impatient, filled with frustration and something more desperate. For the first time, Jungkook was caught off guard. He needed a second to process what was happening, but before he could kiss her back properly, YN bit down on his lip, making him groan. "Kiss me back, Jiyeon," she ordered against his lips, her voice laced with impatience. Something in Jungkook snapped. With a low growl, he flipped them over in an instant, pinning YN beneath him. His lips crashed back onto hers with a force that left her breathless. He devoured her, pouring every bit of his hunger into the kiss. His hands gripped her waist, pulling her closer as if he wanted to melt into her. In gasp, her fingers tangling in his hair. But Jungkook didn't let up. His lips moved against hers relentlessly, drinking in her every reaction. She was breathless, drowning, her chest rising and falling rapidly as Jungkook finally pulled back slightly, his lips just a breath away from hers. "Breathe, my love," he murmured against her lips, his voice husky. "Take a deep breath for me." In's lungs burned, and she sucked in a shaky breath, but Jungkook didn't give her much time to recover. His lips moved down to her jaw, her neck, leaving hot kisses along her skin. "You started this," he whispered, his smirk returning as he pressed a lingering kiss over the mark he left on her neck earlier. "Now, can you handle what comes next?" YN shivered, already knowing she was in trouble.